Howdy, y'all. Welcome back to another episode of Rednecks Rising, your favorite anti-capitalist, anti-racist, anti-fascist Appalachian podcast where we dig into all kinds of history, stories, and cultural topics in between conversations with hillbilly hellraisers who are doing good work in their hollers up and down the mountain range with things like storytelling, mutual aid, harm reduction, and so much more. I am your host, Chelsea, rooted and raised in the Great Smoky Mountains of western North Carolina, where I've been organizing my own community for right at a decade. In today's episode, we're sitting down for a chat with Sujata Day, a South Asian Appalachian filmmaker from the northern side of the mountain range, along with her debut feature-length film that's currently available only on Netflix called Definition Please. Sujata shares a peek into her life and experiences growing up in a family who immigrated here from India, being part of a thriving Hindu community, and her lifelong love of the arts that was fostered by that community. This woman is talented all the way around, and it's such an honor to be able to feature her voice and uplift her work. We talk about the checklist of life and productivity that's given to us by the culture of white supremacist capitalism in our society, and how freaking hard society works to keep us busy and in survival mode as a way of squashing our passions and connections and the ways in which we take up space in the world. Listen to this episode and then make sure to please watch Definition Please if you haven't already, only available on Netflix, because during our conversation together, Sujata tells us more about her intentions to write and create roles that are familiar, that are authentic, to counter the Hollywood stereotypical roles that we see. But before we get too far into the good stuff, let's hold our horses just long enough to take care of some quick housekeeping. Thank God election season is over, y'all. Well, for the most part. I do have interviews scheduled out for the next few weeks, and we have plenty of content in the pipeline to make sure that we make up for the sporadic posting of episodes over these last few weeks. I'm thinking I might even do some current events episodes for the first time, maybe even dig into some information about the elections from the areas where it was not a, quote, huge win for Democrats, end quote, like one of the emails that landed in my inbox today said in the subject line. I also have a bonus episode I'm gearing up to roll out for y'all, and more exciting surprises that I hope to introduce to y'all here soon. And in the meantime, if you like what you hear today and you want to support the show and make publishing more content possible, then I encourage you to head over to our Ko-Fi page, which is the alternative to Patreon that we use. That's a spot where you can throw a tip our way. It's like a one-time thing. You can become a monthly contributor. You can also find sick merch you might like, or you can just hit the follow button over there and keep up with important updates without giving us a single cent. You can also hit the follow button on any of our social media pages. You can find us on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram for the most part. And at the end of December, we will total up the contributions from this month and next month, use that to cover the cost of producing the podcast, and then take half of whatever's left and send that to Appalachians on the ground doing good work to build shared power and liberation for our communities, like the Pulaski County Free Store, East Kentucky Mutual Aid, and some other folks. And even though we've got a solid number of interviews lined up to get us through what's left of 2022, I still want to get folks on the show and use this space to amplify y'all's work as we move forward. So it's never too late to reach out if you or someone you know wants to come on and have a chat and share your work with our small chunk of the world. All right, and with all of that out of the way, I think that we are ready to rock and roll with today's episode. But first, you know what time it is. Time for our trivia question of the day.
Hey, Chelsea.
Hey, Chris.
So our trivia question today is, in 1839, Washington Irving proposed to change the name of what to Appalachia?
Ooh, this is a good one, and I have absolutely no idea. I'm excited to hear the answer, but in order to find out, we're going to have to stick around to the end of the episode, so I'll see y'all then.
Good to talk about anything. So Chelsea, whatever you want to talk about is cool with me.
Cool. Awesome. Well, let's, I guess, start with like, do you want to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are and what prompted you to reach out to the show? And let's just imagine someone who has like never heard of Insecure or like your movie. Like, let's just start from scratch.
Sure. My name's Sujata Day. I'm from Greensburg, Pennsylvania, which is about an hour east of Pittsburgh. And I'm a filmmaker, an actress, a writer, and a director. And I reached out to you because I am very proud of where I'm from. I'm very proud of my hometown, and I love being from Western Pennsylvania, and that's part of who I am. So I'm always very excited to talk to anyone in the region who wants to talk to me.
I love that. And okay, so I'm a proud Appalachian woman. Do you like consider, or like how do you refer to yourself as if like when you say like I'm proud of who I am and where I'm from, like what does that mean to you?
I name drop my little town all the time. I'm like, Greensburg is the best. I loved growing up in Greensburg, and I had an amazing childhood, and we were outside all the time, and it was great, and friends and camping and skiing and all the stuff that comes with growing up in that region of outside of Pittsburgh. I enjoyed all of it. And I think what was really great is as my parents are immigrants from India, and I'm South Asian, first generation, and it was just really lovely to see how the community accepted us and how it was truly like a melting pot. And we made friends with so many other immigrant / first generation South Asian families in the region that it never felt like we were othered.
I love that. So did your parents kind of find themselves originally in Greensburg when they like first journeyed here?
So my dad got a job in Jeanette, and that's where he worked as an engineer for many, many years. And my parents had an arranged marriage. So my dad went back to India, married my mom, came back with her to Greensburg, to this little small town in Pennsylvania, and they made an awesome life for themselves.
I love that. And I'm so curious about the kind of immigrant population that you were talking about being up there. I know, at least in my portion of, so I'm in the Western North Carolina area, closer to Asheville than Boone, but I don't live in Asheville. But those are like the two places that folks know. And for us, there's a pretty large like migrant farm worker population. And so most of the immigrants that I think my portion of like Appalachia is familiar with as like being a part of our community are like typically like South American Spanish speaking immigrants. And so can you tell me more about like that community that you found in your part of Appalachia?
Yeah, I think part of it was that there are 3 Hindu temples in the region where I'm from, and people travel to these temples from New York and New Jersey and Ohio and West Virginia and southern states, and it is a place that people come on the weekends to hang out and find community. And our family was close to it. So I was there hanging out at the temple every weekend. I was taking dance classes there on Sundays and making friends with my fellow dance girls. And so the community was really tight knit, and we would welcome in anyone who was traveling in from out of town. And that was part of the beauty of it. And that might have been part of a big reason why South Asians flocked to that region.
That makes so much sense. Yeah, because I don't know of any Hindu temples anywhere near me. So I can imagine that that would have a lot to do with it to be able to connect with their culture and their spirituality and religion in that way. So interesting. Well, okay, so tell me more about your Netflix movie, Definition Please. This is just dropped recently, right?
Yeah, it just dropped end of January, so the beginning of this year.
Oh my gosh. Okay, that's great. So before Definition Please, you were in Insecure and you described yourself as a filmmaker and a director. And how did you, so with as a first generation South Asian Appalachian human being, find yourself going into film of all things? I feel like that's such I don't see a lot of Appalachians who are like, film or like how like not I think of like Hollywood is kind of like what I associate like filmmaking with, which is probably a total like bias that I need to dig into, but I'm just curious as to like the journey that like led you into filmmaking.
So I grew up very into the arts in general. So I was doing plays from a very young age, recitals, dance recitals, singing recitals, musicals. I played guitar. I played piano, and I really enjoyed performing. And I did all of this throughout my childhood, through middle school, through high school. I went to big public high school that really put a lot of effort into the musicals. And we were, rehearsing late at night. We had 6 nights of shows, and my parents would show up with flowers every single night in the front row. And that's where I developed my love for performance, for making people laugh. And I recognized that I did want to do that for the rest of my life. And like you said, when you grow up in that part of the country, you don't know what that means. Is
Yeah,
that Hollywood? Is that what you see on TV? Is that meaning that you have to be Brad Pitt? Or you don't really
exactly.
understand what goes into that. And so when I went to college, I actually studied engineering, but I took a lot of performance classes and I continued to do plays and musicals. And I also took a semester of screenwriting and a semester of playwriting. And that really opened my eyes to, oh, this is the hard work that needs to be done in terms of being a filmmaker, or being on the way to working in entertainment. And so that's where I started writing, taking my writing more seriously and creating those worlds and creating characters. And I even look back on some of those scripts that I wrote in my college classes, and they're just terrible. They're just not good. But something that's awesome about screenwriting and writing in general is that the more you write, the better you will get. So every script that I've written is better than the last one that I've written. And that's always exciting to watch yourself progress in something that you're working really hard at. So I moved out to LA after college. I went to college in Cleveland, and I just started getting into it. I just started from the bottom. I went to acting classes, I got headshots, I found an agent, and I did all the beginner things that you need to do to start going on, commercial auditions and student film auditions. And then I just grew my experience from there.
I find it so interesting that you went to college for engineering while you were pursuing this really the heart dream, like what you actually wanted to do. And it's part of what I'm curious about is were there like messages, either internal or external, that you might have had to like confront or um push against in the pursuit of like that dream to be a filmmaker? Because I think when I think about when I was younger, I loved writing, and I would journal and I would do creative writing, and I read all the time, and I would like make up these stories. And my grandma was really supportive of that. But I think there were these messages that I had for myself where I was like, yeah, but that's like it. And I think part of it also comes from potentially like a class intersection too, where it was like, I was like, my family was in poverty, and I was like, there's no way I'm going to get out of poverty writing creative writing stuff. And so and then I think about the layers of being a woman and a woman of color and these other like layers of that. And were there messages that you felt you had to fight in yourself or external around like, oh, this isn't a career, or this isn't something that will provide like stability under gestures, well, late stage capitalism?
For sure. I didn't want to be in LA a poor, struggling actor. I
Yeah.
wanted to be able to not ask my parents for help. I wanted to be able to do it on my own. I wanted to be able to pay my rent and not stress out about money. And in terms of external factors growing up, I never had any pressure from my parents to be anything or do anything. And they, like I said, they'd supported all the arts that I was flinging myself into. And I feel like I got more peer pressured because I was around all these high achieving Indian American kids who were my friends, and they were all going to 6-year med programs and Ivy League schools, and they were all studying engineering or math or business. And I told myself, oh, I guess that's what I'm supposed to be doing as well. So that was the big push for me to go into a STEM field and not pursue the arts as a viable career. Because like you, I was like, how am I going to make money, acting?
Exactly. Yeah. And even now, I mean, I do feel like, so this podcast is the beginning of my like heart journey. I've been a community organizer for a decade, and that is my passion and I love it. But I'm also, there's something deeper that I'm like trying to get to. And I think it was something that I wasn't able to really explore until I was like, okay, I've got a salary and decent benefits now, and like can make sure that I have a container for survival while I also like pursue this thing that's actually really important. And that's exactly, I appreciate you naming the difference between like not messages from your parents externally, but the cultural messages that we receive because of who we are and the different identities that we hold. And
I think it's societal messages. It's not even,
that's what American,
it's not even as specific as culture. It's like society tells you that you should be doing this thing over that thing, and they squash your passion or your idea of what you should be doing so that you can follow that tried and true path of like, well, you do this, you get this degree, and then you get the job, and then you have health insurance, and then you will start a family, and then you will do all these things, and these
check the boxes
checklist of life. And it is you are rebelling against that when you go into something different that is like the arts, that is not that you have to wake up every day and work on, and then you go to bed every day and you're thinking about it and you're continuously working. Whereas at a 9-to-5 job, you can kind of go to work, come home, and then forget about it. That's not what living my life is like.
Exactly. Yeah. And thank you for, again, like the clarification. When I do my solo episodes, they're typically examining what I call like capitalism or white supremacist capitalism culture. So when I say the culture, I'm like, this cultural like influence of like who we should be and like how we should show up in the world and what it means to like achieve like in this current, like, just state of the world and this country. And so, so much appreciate you naming that. And because like of all of that pressure and all of the kind of like messages that we're receiving by observing the world around us, I'm so curious if there was like a source of inspiration for you to go into, like, how did you get curious about the arts and like want to jump into that all of those years ago?
I think my family has always really been into the arts. And in terms of Indian culture, we're Bengalis. We are known as the artists of India, actually.
Ooh, I learned that today. Thank you for sharing.
And we are the poets and the writers and the filmmakers that are outside of Bollywood, actually. And so we have it ingrained in us. And then our families, my parents, always reading books, always writing, always encouraging us to do a bunch of visual arts as well. So I grew up painting and sketching and watercolors and pottery. And so that was something that my parents wanted us to do. I was always at art classes on weekends and after school. And it was really amazing. And it was great. It was a great balance between my hardcore math and science classes to be able to kind of forget about it. Making a dish on the pottery wheel. And it was nurtured from a very young age by my parents.
That's so beautiful. I love that. I am just like, my ADHD is very extra today. So I have if you see me looking up, it's because I'm literally like looking at my thoughts and I'm like, how do I fish between these thoughts? Okay. Oh my gosh. So it's so beautiful to me too. Cause like while my parents didn't necessarily invest in arts, like I remember just family gatherings where like my uncles would pick up the guitars and banjos and like we'd all be playing it around like our potluck, holiday dinner. And I love the beauty and how that shows up differently, but the same in like the way that we connect with our people and like each other and like our ancestors and our families, and just so much there to like the strings. And so that said, like I'm curious as to like where you see your like filmmaking taking you. Like I guess in the ideal world, I like to ask what I call the miracle question. It's like if there's nothing holding you back and you had all the resources in the world, like what would you like to see be kind of the legacy of this journey in the arts that you're on right now?
I would love to just continue to make projects that are set in Western Pennsylvania. Like I said, I'm really in love with my hometown. I am very inspired by the situations and the experiences and the friends I had growing up, and they always seem to find a way into my work and into my writing. And I would love to, like, M. Night Shyamalan has a studio in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, where he creates a lot of his work out of Philadelphia. And that would be awesome if I had a little studio in Pittsburgh or outside of Pittsburgh, and I could make all of my movies and my TV shows out of there. That would be the dream.
I love your love of place because that is deeply me too. My partner, and even like I work with folks all across different states, and they're like, "Oh, do you ever think you'll like move out of Western North Carolina?" And I'm like, no, I could never imagine living anywhere else. And I've bounced around kind of like across this whole region, lived in a few different counties, but it's always here and it's always home. And it was kind of a journey for me to recognize that love of place. And I did like travel. I've never lived anywhere else, but I've traveled and stayed in other places across the country. And it was really probably, I would say, like my coming of age and stepping out of my parents' house that allowed me to recognize my own love of this place and all that it has given me. And I'm curious if there was that kind of recognition for you at some point around that love of place, or if it was always like, this is home, I love this place, and what that looked like for you.
I think I always had that attitude. I'm always someone who loves living in the moment and enjoying the moment, and I don't look to the future too much. I don't dwell on the past very much, and I just enjoy where I am at, which was true even when I was a kid growing up in Greensburg and being with my friends and hanging out, going to the dances and all that fun stuff. And I believe like I'm still friends with people from kindergarten and grade and preschool, and it's always really amusing to them how much I am obsessed with Greensburg, because they've all moved out and moved on, and I'm always trying to get back.
A woman after my own heart. I and I'm this, like, all of my friends have moved away. I like to say, like, that's part of why I'm so passionate, I think, too, is because of that, like, generational migration as a result of like going where the jobs are and like where the investment is and all of those things. And I resonate so strongly with that. And that said, like, I'm so curious what it was like for you when you moved to LA and then like coming back, and you named kind of the things that you loved about home as a kid, but like, what do you love about it now that you're an adult? And like, now that you live here, like, what are your favorite parts about Greensburg?
I love how green it is.
Yes.
LA is very dry. I mean, it's a city that's built on a desert and it's very dry. We just went through a really insane heat wave that was pretty unbearable. I had to go to the movie theater to escape the heat wave.
Oh my gosh, y'all are in a part of the region where you don't have like AC in most of the buildings. Is that right?
So a lot of some apartments, some houses have central AC. My apartment has an AC in one room, that in the living room, that doesn't reach further than 10 feet in front of it. And so you have to kind of stand in front of the AC to get any kind of air flow going. And so we just kind of survive on fans.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So you had this pretty unbearable heat wave, but I don't know if there was something else that you were going to say that I distracted you from when talking about the AC.
That really loud noise distracted me. I wasn't sure what that was. But yeah, LA, I actually do love LA. I love the people here. I love my creative community. I love being outside in nature. But when I go back home, it's so fun to see the fireflies and to feel the dampness outside with the humidity. Like, I miss that. I miss the thunderstorms. I miss the lightning. And obviously I love being back home with my parents.
Yeah. So I think I might have mixed up the plot line of your movie with your current life, because I was thinking you had moved back home for some reason.
No, I live in LA. So
okay, cool.
it's not an autobiographical story.
Gotcha. No, that makes sense. And with my ADHD, I think I also had just like mixed up what I read about you and what I read about like on the poster, and like, and okay, so living in LA still, but yeah, exactly what you described about Appalachia being like just the damp. It's like so raw, earthy out here. Like, it's just, you can like wet dirt. It's like one of my favorite smells. And I think it's because of growing up out here. And it's like you walk outside and that's what you smell usually. And I was on this like somatics coaching call earlier, and they were like, what do you do to ground yourself? And I was like, really? All I got to do is like go outside and look around, because it's like the ancient mountains that are right there with you. And everything's always like, it's either vibrant green or vibrant reds and yellows. And even in the winter time, it's like somehow still vibrant when everything has lost all of its like foliage. So yeah, thank you for that description. That's really powerful description of Appalachia. Well, what else would you like to use our time to touch on today? Anything in particular that you were hoping to share about your movie or yourself?
I mean, if you want to talk more about the movie, I don't think we talked about, I feel like you asked about the movie and then
I got on another tangent and
asked
about
we went on
else.
a tangent. So I'm happy to talk about the movie and
the
themes of the movie, mental illness, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
If you want to get into that.
That would be great. So it's not autobiographical. But tell us a little bit about what it is about.
Definition, please. Is about a young girl who won the National Spelling Bee as a child, and now she is an adult in her 20s, and she has not achieved anything else in her life. She is still living at home. She is helping her mom out, and her estranged brother comes home and things go awry.
things go awry. I saw a mention of bipolar illness related to the brother in the movie. Is that right?
That is correct. Yes. Yeah.
Gotcha. So some mental health stuff, some cultural stuff, some like coming of age. What does it mean to be an adult right now kind of stuff. Um, so curious about like what were the main inspirations behind this movie and some of the things that you were hoping to get across with the movie?
I think a lot of the main inspirations were just films that I had grew up watching that I really loved, especially films with siblings in the main roles. I love like You Can Count on Me, um, The Savages, Skeleton Twins. These were all inspirations for my film, and I saw that a couple of my friends had paid for their own projects to go forward and put the budget on credit cards, and I was like, okay, that seems like something I'm interested in doing, and I wanted to invest in myself. And so heavily inspired by the Duplass brothers and how they make films and how they just kind of go out and make them and don't ask anyone for permission. And that's what I decided to do. So in 2017, I started writing the script. And in 2018, I wrote a couple, went through rewrites and went out to a few producers that I had already worked with, and really got rejected across the board in terms of no one wanted to make this movie. And then in early 2019, I had sold a few TV shows by this point, and I put a check that I'd received from a TV show straight into the budget for Definition Please. And then we shot it in summer of 2019 in my hometown, in my childhood home. And it all came together really, really well. We did post-production at Skywalker Ranch in San Francisco. We had a lot of people reaching out just to help. And it was really lovely to even while we were shooting in Greensburg, a lot of my friends from elementary school helped out with finding locations and actors, and it was a community project. It was awesome. And then once we finished the film in early 2020, the pandemic hit.
I was just about to say, oh my gosh, you finished it in early 2020. Crux timing, like.
yeah. And then the pandemic hit, and then obviously all of our live screenings got canceled. We were supposed to premiere at a few LA film festivals we were really excited about. And then we had to just pivot and adapted to what the new world was going to be. And so did, shout out to the film festivals that really took into consideration filmmakers and a lot of people's first and second films that were getting into these festivals, and helped us through this by, making their festivals virtual and having little group sessions where we could meet the other filmmakers online. And of course, nothing really beats being at a film festival, watching a movie on the big screen, and then talking to other filmmakers while you're there. But it was making the best of a really terrible situation that the entire world was going through.
So this is your first film, production thing.
This is my first feature film. Yes.
Oh my gosh! Congratulations! That is huge. How are you? So it dropped on Netflix in January of this year, but you were going to a bunch of virtual film festivals in 2020 to premiere it, and it's been 2 years since then, which is hard to believe. How have things felt for you since the premiere and since your baby of this movie was brought earthside?
It's been really great. I think one of the best things that I've received out of all of this are the messages and the emails and the notes that I'm getting from younger filmmakers, younger creators, storytellers who feel inspired to tell their own story, and who, I got a message that said, "Oh, I was gonna do my short film and I was hesitating until I saw your movie, and now I'm gonna go out and do it." And that's the best thing, because I think showing people that it can be done, that you can do it, that it's not some crazy hard feat, even though it is a lot of work, showing people that you can do it as a regular person, kind of helps make it more real for the person who's trying to do it as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I see so many parallels here, and like what you love about your filmmaking, and like what I love about community organizing, especially as somebody who's like doing it with my poor folks, like my poor family, the restaurant workers that I've been working with for the last, since I was 15 years old, and just like showing them that like building power is something that we can do together, and that there's a lot of there is a lot of money and influence and stuff that goes into filmmaking in the industry as we know it, but a lot of it's like illusion, and like is meant to maintain this like sense of only a certain kind of person can succeed in like the film industry. And the same thing is true with like building community power and like the ability to make decisions about our own lives. And it's like a lot of what we're told about coming together and how hard it has to be to get into to be able to like influence decisions around housing and healthcare is like, it's so much of an illusion, and just like it's made to seem like only a few people are able to make those decisions, but really we're the ones like upholding the pyramid that they're on top of. And so I just appreciate that parallel, and like showing people, like all of our people around us, that like actually we can tell our story, we can come together, we can create a narrative, and like we don't have to have unlimited resources to do it with. We can be scrappy, and like and I think it's powerful when something like that is a community project, as you described it too, because then it does have the authenticity of being a community project, as opposed to this like like the difference between a posed photograph and a candid photograph. It's like there's the life in it that's a little bit different than that posed photograph. And I'm curious if like the narrative piece of filmmaking, and how, so for me, and kind of the lens that I walk through the world with, is that like so much of our narrative, and we actually already touched on this, like so much of the messages that we take in are actually like narrative messages that might even be like coming from Hollywood, or like whoever has the chance to shape the narrative. And is that something that like you've thought of as you're like making your art, or is it more of like a lighthearted, just like writing from the heart kind of process for you?
Oh, no. I'm completely thinking of the narrative
Yeah.
that Hollywood has put out for the past gajillion years. And that's a big part of why I'm doing what I'm doing, because I've been out here, I've been auditioning for years and years, and a lot of the roles that I was auditioning for were very stereotypical or inauthentic, or didn't match the lives of me and my friends and the people that I grew up with. And so me writing and creating these roles that I am familiar with and that I see every day, that was very important to me, to tell that story from a very personal and authentic point of view.
Love that. Love that you thought about all of those pieces, and just how important it is for your story to have that authentic like piece of life in it as you're writing. Are there any other projects that you're like working on currently that you're excited about, or is it pretty much full force like spreading the word about Definition Please right now? And yeah.
Well, I
Oh,
am continuing to spread the word about Definition Please, obviously, but it just got announced that I'm writing the next American Pie movie.
Oh my gosh, that's
Yeah, so that is
huge.
very exciting, and I've been working on that, and it's been such a blast. I'm having a great time. So working on that, and then I have a couple TV shows in the works, and I'm working on my next few feature films, and just can't stop, won't stop.
Yes, we love to see it. As folks are like hearing this and they're curious about you and your work, like where are some of the places that they could go to learn more or see more or find just anything that you've done so far or anything about you?
Of course, I'm on socials. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Sujata Day, Sujata Day. I'm also got a website, sujataday.com. You can see all my work on there and press and videos and all that fun stuff. And that's where I'm at online.
Awesome. And you've also been in HBO's Insecure, so they can see you on that, right?
Yes, and you can find that on HBO Max.
Awesome. And then Definition Please is on Netflix. Any other platforms I should?
It's only on Netflix.
Only on Netflix. And then how can we support you in addition to watching or streaming Definition Please? Like if we want to invest in you and the stories that you're telling and the awesome work that you're doing, how can we do that?
I think the best way is to just, retweet, share, post stuff on your socials and spread the word about these stories that don't often get a chance to be told. So it's really exciting when they do find a platform like Netflix.
Absolutely. I'm also going to be sharing, just as a heads up to let you know, I'm going to share your work with, I have a friend who is a professor of Appalachian studies at App State. And she has like a whole syllabus with like different media that she encourages people to check out and be like, if this isn't on there already, make sure to add it. I don't know how much, like me, I'm not much of a TV watcher these days because I am like consuming so much content on behalf of like the research for the historical episodes of this. And then I work and I also have a 2.5-year-old, which is a whole other feat in itself. So I'm like not big into like what's on Netflix these days. I saw all the Dahmer memes and I was like, oh, I've got some catching up to do because I don't even know what's going on in pop culture and stuff. So yeah. I'll pass it along to her in case she wants to add that to her syllabus. Cause I think having this, I've been really excited about the media that's been published lately, whether it's like books that are being published or your film that's coming out that is showing that Appalachia is more than this monolithic stereotype that folks have portrayed as a way to like write off the region. And
it's very interesting the amount of TV shows and movies that I'm seeing, and they're only focused on the opioid crisis, or drugs, and it's kind of like mind-boggling.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's a way to like write off like the fact that the coal companies are continuing to just like destroy the land and in a way to like kind of disguise the like truly just corporate ownership up and down the region that like is like the region is a company town at this point. I was interviewing a Amazon worker from Kentucky who had gotten fired for unionizing, who was talking about like Jeff Bezos bought what used to be a factory, turned it into a warehouse, and like their town is more or less a company town now. And it's like that is really happening up and down the region. And I think by creating this one singular narrative about like, oh, it's all white people who are addicted to opiates, who didn't get an education and live on the system, like that's a way for the rest of the country sometimes I feel like to be like, oh, well, then whatever happens to them, instead of like questioning that and being like, no, who are the folks in that area, the indigenous communities that still are here and were forcibly removed from here, the beautiful immigrant community that you described in the northern part of the region. Like it's just so much more than that. And I'm really excited about your film. And there's been a couple of books lately too that have come out that have, I think, started to paint a different picture. And that's why that narrative is like that authentic narrative is so important. And it's got to be about so much more than just selling what people want to hear. It's got to be about like speaking our truth to power, whether that power be the power of the film industry or the power of Hollywood or the power of politicians or whatever it is. Like, it's so important because it's all connected and like it's all supporting each other one way or another.
Yeah, I mean, before the pandemic hit, we were definitely planning a college campus tour with the film. Well, because the audience is young adults. And so we were planning that whole thing and that got derailed too.
No. Are these things that you're thinking about? Like these ideas, are you planning on revisiting those ideas?
I think since Definition Please is on Netflix and available to pretty much anyone, we're always open to traveling anywhere with the film. And, you know, if Penn State wants to show it in one of their theaters and we'll come out and do a Q&A, that would be great.
Ooh, yeah, that'd be cool.
But we're not pursuing that. It's not a priority for us right now.
Gotcha. That makes total sense, especially because you're literally on the other side of the country right now. So that's a long way from home. How often do you get to visit back home?
I usually come back twice a year and I'll stay for a long period of time. And especially like pandemic and post-pandemic, it's really easy to do work from anywhere and it's all virtual and Zoom meetings and stuff. So it's not even a big deal to travel back and forth anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been really fortunate in the same way that like I'm able to work from home now, and that means broadband access has been expanded a little bit in our area too. Well, great. Is there anything else that you were like hoping to be able to share during our time together?
I think that's it. That's all I got for you. Yeah, that was a great convo.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. And I am sorry if I seem awkward. I'm less like, I don't know as much about like media and like how to ask good questions about that stuff because it's just not in like my life. Well, that wraps up today's episode of Rednecks Rising. Thanks again for tuning in and for all your support and solidarity over the 5 months or so that the show has been around. Big thanks to Sujata for coming on the show. Stay on the lookout, y'all, for a bonus episode to be dropping soon. Make sure to hit subscribe or follow on whatever podcast service you listen on so that you get a notification when that episode drops. Find us on social media, but not until after you go watch Definition Please on Netflix. And all that said, I guess I better let y'all go. But first, we got to know the answer to today's trivia question.
So our trivia question today is, in 1839, Washington Irving proposed to change the name of what to Appalachia?
I have no ever-loving idea, and I'm so excited to find out. So what you got for us?
Believe it or not, it was the United States.
Wow, like the whole country? I actually did not, like, that's wild.
Believe it or not, Edgar Allan Poe actually took up the idea later on as well.
Wow, thanks for always keeping us on our toes with fun information. We appreciate you. Lord willing and the creek don't rise, y'all. We'll see you next week.